So, what if a campaign of maximum pressure, one that was designed to completely break a country, ended up doing the exact opposite? It's a huge geopolitical paradox. And today, we're breaking down the story emerging from multiple sources of how Iran completely flipped the script in the Middle East. But this is way more than just a story about conflict. It's a fascinating mix of really sharp strategic thinking and some seriously next-level military tech. As the source material describes it, this is a geopolitical masterstroke that has totally reshaped the region, and frankly, it caught a lot of people off guard. So that's the big question, right? How did a strategy of maximum pressure backfire so spectacularly? Well, the answer isn't simple. It's a really complex web of politics, bold military moves, and, as we're about to see, some truly game-changing technology. Okay, so to really get how this all happened, we've got to rewind a bit, back to the beginning. The initial talks, they weren't really negotiations at all. The starting point was incredibly simple: complete and total surrender. Or else. I mean, just look at the massive gap between these two positions. On one side, you have this long list of demands. Get rid of your missile program, dismantle your navy, stop all nuclear activity, pull back your influence in the region. And on the other side, a much, much simpler goal: just survive as a country. They were on completely different planets from the get-go. And this quote, man, it really captures how those demands landed. It wasn't seen as a pathway to peace. It was seen as an ultimatum. Surrender your sovereignty, disarm completely, and basically leave yourself wide open. You can see why this was a non-starter from day one. But then, right in the middle of this standoff, new players walked onto the board, and the entire game changed. All of a sudden, Iran wasn't alone anymore. A huge influx of military and tech support from China and Russia completely flipped every strategic calculation. And listen, we're not just talking about selling a few rifles here and there. No, this was about building a complete, fully integrated defense network. And to really wrap your head around the scale of this support, just look at these numbers. Sources point out that while the US produces maybe 100 missiles a month, Chinese factories can pump out up to 1,000 cruise missile engines per day. That incredible industrial difference gives Iran access to what is basically a bottomless arsenal. And the key thing to understand is just how comprehensive this support package was. It's the whole shebang: sophisticated missiles, advanced radar systems, real-time satellite intelligence fed from China and Russia, military advisors on the ground, and get this, even naval support hanging out near the Persian Gulf. So this new alliance, it wasn't just some political agreement on paper. It created a genuinely formidable, high-tech military with some very real and very powerful capabilities. Let's just zoom in on one piece of tech that really tells the story: the Chinese JY-27A radar. This system is a massive game changer because it's designed to neutralize one of America's biggest military advantages: stealth technology. So how does this thing actually work? Well, it's actually pretty clever. The radar blasts out these really long VHF radio waves. Now, stealth coatings are amazing at absorbing these shorter waves used by most radars. But these long waves, they just don't get absorbed. So the end result? Those invisible F-35s and F-22s, well, they suddenly pop right up on the screen, completely changing the math of who controls the sky. And then there's the range. Iran has now demonstrated that it can hit targets 4,000 kilometers away. That is not a small number. So what does 4,000 kilometers actually look like on a map? Well, it means major European capitals like London, Paris, and Berlin are now theoretically within striking distance. This sends a very clear message. This isn't just a regional squabble anymore. And this new arsenal isn't just about land targets. It poses a direct threat to the very symbol of American naval power. We're talking about supersonic missiles like the Chinese YJ-12, which have a pretty terrifying nickname: carrier killers. They're built specifically to get past the defenses of a carrier group and sink the big one, the aircraft carrier itself. But here's the thing: it's not just about raw power, it's about precision. A recent strike landed just 12 kilometers from Israel's Dimona nuclear reactor. Now, that wasn't some lucky shot. It was a message. And that kind of pinpoint accuracy is no accident. It was made possible by using real-time targeting data from China's Beidou and Russia's GLONASS satellite systems. So, all of this military and tech development brings us to Iran's biggest trump card: a simple fact of geography that gives it incredible leverage over the entire world. Just take a look at this. The Strait of Hormuz is a tiny little choke point, but a staggering 21%, more than a fifth, of all the oil the world uses every single day has to pass right through it. That's a mind-boggling amount of the world's energy supply squeezed into one narrow little waterway. And that right there is what analysts are calling Iran's insurance policy. Their ability to shut that strait down at any moment is their ultimate deterrent. Closing it would trigger an immediate global economic heart attack, sending gas prices and everything else into the stratosphere for everyone. It's basically a financial weapon of mass destruction. So when you put it all together, the new military muscle and this ultimate economic leverage, the entire geopolitical chessboard has been flipped. The balance of power has fundamentally and dramatically shifted. And this slide, this just says it all. It is a complete 180-degree reversal. Remember, the game started with the US demanding total disarmament. And now Iran is the one laying out the conditions for peace. Financial reparations for frozen assets, a complete end to all sanctions, and even the right to tax ships passing through Hormuz. This new reality also explains something that's puzzled a lot of observers: the surprising neutrality of traditional US allies in the Gulf. For them, it's just pure pragmatism. They see a potential quagmire with no easy way out. Iran is their permanent neighbor, and a war would absolutely wreck their own ambitious economic plans. They'd much rather stay out of it and keep the lines of communication open. Of course, not everyone sees it that way. This stance has caused a lot of frustration in some Western circles. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board, for example, basically asked, hey, why are these countries with hundreds of advanced fighter jets just sitting on the sidelines? But for the Gulf states, the risk calculation is just completely different. Which leaves us with a final, really crucial question. In this new multipolar world, a world with many centers of power, not just one or two, where alliances have shifted, tech has leveled the playing field, and economic choke points can be turned into weapons, who's really calling the shots now? It's a stark reminder of just how fast strategy and technology can redraw the world map.